We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by Prize Picks. Week 18, it's the big show. How's everyone doing today? Week 18, always a crazy week in general. We got a lot of stuff going on with motivation, incentives. We'll get into all of that. I'll say this, though. I say it every single year. Week 18 is a week to scale back. If you're not feeling confident, that's okay. There's definitely a lot of edge out there, but there's also a lot of volatility, and we have to make sure that we don't completely ruin ourselves before some of the best weeks of the entire year playoff DFS. But hope everyone is doing great. We'll talk through it. There's definitely some really great plays out there today, and there's a lot of opportunity if you do want to dive in heavily in week 18. Be my guest. I'll be one of those people that definitely scales back a little bit, but still going to have a lot of fun. My last Vikings game ever living downtown. So excited for that. Even though the game might not have a lot of actual implications. I think it'll be a fun one. And then in general, thanks for everyone and all the kind words last week. I know that we didn't have a show. One of those things where I don't really, I like to keep like my private life a little bit more private, believe it or not, regardless of all the yelling on the internet and that sort of thing. But yeah, my wife's pregnant. So we're having a baby in February. Actually, like right around the Super Bowl, which is crazy. So good timing because things slowed down a little bit from a work perspective. But yeah, it was kind of crazy. Obviously, I go to bed pretty early on Saturdays. I'm old, all those things. We do the early show. She wakes me up in the middle of the night, says that she's having some pain. We need to go in. So we were actually in the emergency room from about like midnight until about, I don't know, we were there until like 6 p.m. the next day. Everything's good. Baby's fine. They actually said from the start that the baby was looking good. But yeah, just like a lot of pain. I guess there's a lot of things that can kind of happen, a lot of uncomfortable kind of things that can happen in like that last trimester. But yeah, we got through it. We're still not sure exactly what it was, but the pain kind of went away for now. So hopefully everything's good and we're back on schedule for the beginning of February. But always scary. This is our first baby, so always scary to see or to have something like that and get woken up in the middle of the night and run into the hospital not knowing if baby's coming a little bit earlier than we thought. But yeah, everything's good. I appreciate you guys being understanding there. Yeah, some things are more important than a Sunday morning live stream. So hopefully everyone had a great week 17 and a lot to get to here today. So let's jump into it. Appreciate everyone here in the chat per usual. Bunch of familiar names. Wayne Casey, what's up, my man? Joe Milk's in here. Catcher's in here. How's it going, guys? How's it going? Johnny Mack, what's up, my man? Last week of the season. Say it ain't so. It ain't so. We got playoff weeks, my man. Playoff weeks are some of the best weeks of the entire year on DraftKings, in my opinion. So we'll be here. We will be here unless we have another, I guess, early baby type of scenario. We'll be here, my man. Hope you guys cash a big one today. What's up, Demons? How's it going? Hopefully we do. That'd be nice. Hardcore King, what's up, my man? J.R. Heineke. Who else is in here? What else? Stool Pigeon DFS. What's up, man? How's it going? Winterbell's in here. What's up, Winterbell? Mikey boy. How's it going, brother? How's it going? How we doing? Last trimester. Yes, always an adventure. Uh, Thanks for the congrats. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, I will be a dad. That's it's exciting stuff. You guys have a lot of you guys have been with us for a long time, so it's exciting. Welcome back. We're good. Glad to hear all as well. Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Appreciate it. Let's jump in here before the millions and millions of viewers just tune out because they're here only for the picks. But the one thing that we always start with is a poll. We're gonna start with this week's highest owned player. We got Trevor Lawrence, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase, Jacoby Myers, or other. The rare quarterback on this poll, though I do think that the Trevor Lawrence ownership could get a little bit out of control, considering, I guess, some of the other spots here. What do you guys think in terms of highest owned player on DraftKings, though? Appreciate you, Johnny. Thanks, man. Rob, how we doing, man? Yeah, 35 weeks, definitely the uncomfortable stage. So, yeah, she's a warrior, though. That's for sure. You gain even more, you gain more and more respect like by the week for like what they have to go through and how little I can do to actually help at all. And it is a baby girl, which is also pretty exciting too. So gonna be a girl dad. We just did our pictures, all of that. I guess on like a lighter note, when we went into the hospital, we're like not sure if baby's coming, all that stuff. First thing my wife says is, "What about our pictures?" Again, we haven't posted anything online about this, but she did want to get like our pictures taken, the maternity photos, all of that. So we had that 2 days ago. So like a couple days after this little scare. So we'll get our pictures. It's just funny that that was like the one thing that popped into her head. Bijan Robinson leading the way here, highest owned player. Yes, Bijan ruined my hopes at one of my biggest leagues, taking home a championship. So ended up losing to, I mean, Malik Willis at quarterback. This is a team that lost a quarterback late to injury. Very good team, but the whole week they had either Aaron Rodgers or Cousins in their quarterback slot. And then I checked back and they ended up playing Malik Willis, getting 32 from their quarterback. I think I was up like 25 or something like that going into Monday Night Football. And then Bijan crushed all my hopes and dreams. Such a bummer. Girl dad times three. Wow, congrats, man. That's awesome. Welcome to the club. A lot of girl dads in the chat. Let's go. How much Bijan is too much Bijan this week? I just have all this like pent up bias, I guess, from last week because I was watching that game so closely. And fading Bijan is never a fun thing to have your fantasy championship ride on. But yeah, I mean, he's a great play yet again. They get to play spoiler a little bit this week too. We'll get there. I'm surprised you guys think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be that low. I mean, it is tough. Quarterback tends to be a little bit flatter. I'm with you guys on that. I do agree, though. I think Bijan Robinson will be the highest owned player. Going to try and move a little bit quicker through some of these polls because a lot of this stuff does come down to motivation. It comes down to, I think the incentive stuff is a little bit more fun in the prop markets to sweat as well. But I'll mention this too as we're kind of getting started here. One of the things that you can do for free NFLweek18.com. If you just want all of the motivation stuff, I tried to basically rank every team a score for how motivated or not motivated they are. So if you're a little bit confused on what's going on, which players you should be targeting, which players have nothing to play, or which players or which teams have a ton to play for, all of that. I basically just made a little bit of a cheat sheet here. You can just throw in your email at NFLweek18.com and get that. Also, the incentive stuff, have a full cheat sheet for a couple weeks now for players that are chasing contract bonuses, all of that, milestones, all that good stuff. That one's bonusnfl.com to get those cheat sheets for free. Just toss in your email and you'll get them. So I'll be referring to those a little bit as we roll. But I think the teams that we really want to focus on here, obviously we had a lot of implications in yesterday's game, but some of the teams that we're still really focusing on here, a lot of it kind of comes down to the night game, but we do have a little bit here. Obviously, Steelers, Ravens on Sunday Night Football. Both of those are very important. Winner wins the AFC North, makes the playoffs. Loser is eliminated. So pretty crazy. This one, I guess this main slate, we have Broncos that are heavily motivated. A win locks up the number one seed and a first round bye. So Denver's going to be going all out. The Patriots are an interesting one because they can still reach the number one seed with a win and a Broncos loss, but that outcome is pretty unlikely because the Chargers are going to be resting their starters. And the Jaguars, everyone makes fun of me for how I say that. The Jaguars, I'm just going to say Jags because so you guys don't make fun of me. Jags are, I have them at a 9 out of 10 for their motivation. They're obviously one of those teams that's going to be heavily incentivized to win. A win clinches the AFC South and at least the number 3 seed. So they do have like an outside chance to move up a little bit if others lose as well. Texans, very highly motivated. They're still live for the AFC South, and they can protect that number 5 seed. I mean, there's some significant matchup shuffling that can be done kind of towards the bottom, but the Texans are still in a really good spot. NFC wise, a lot of that kind of is still being sorted out, but a lot of the games have happened already. So the key thing I think to be monitoring here is what do we think about this Rams team? Are they going to be motivated? Are they going to be playing their starters essentially? It really just depends. The Bears is another one as well. We'll see if Detroit ends up playing their starters the whole game. A win locks up the number 2 seed for the Bears, so they have clear and direct playoff seeding implications there. There's a few things here. There really is like a couple things that even going into the teams that have basically been out of it, right, for a while. Like, what do the Cardinals do today? They've been out of it for weeks and weeks. So that's kind of what we're looking at. The Rams are interesting. I just don't know exactly if I should be trusting Sean McVay because it sounds like he wants to be rolling into playoffs, playing a little bit better than they have been lately. But they are one of the most injured teams in the NFL, also. So there's a lot to think about there. Incentive wise, I'll touch on it just like really quickly. Again, the cheat sheets. There's links in the descriptions for both of those as well. There's a few that are like kind of out of reach, and there's a few that are very close. So Keenan Allen, 9 receiving yards, extra 250K. That's interesting. Stephon Diggs, 8 catches for another 500K. Does look like the team's going to be standing by him through his legal issues. He will be playing today, it looks like. What else we got? Hollywood Brown, 100 yards for an extra 625K. I don't think that's probably happening without Mahomes in this one. We also have a Travis Kelce, potentially his last game ever, which is somewhat interesting. Debo Samuel has some incentives that are slightly out of reach, in my opinion, but that one's kind of interesting as well. The incentive stuff, it felt like last year we had a lot more that was like a little bit more relevant. Obviously, the Mike Evans stuff, all of that. Some of the statistical milestones are somewhat interesting. Bijan Robinson, if he has another crazy game, actually could set the single season record for scrimmage yards, which is kind of interesting. Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb battling to have the most catches ever in their first 6 seasons. So we're paying attention to that. Justin Jefferson in, I mean, a pretty good spot this week, obviously, with the Packers sitting all of their starters, but we do have JJ McCarthy at quarterback, which we'll get to. All of those things, a lot of the records and some of that was hit last week. Trey McBride, now the new receptions record for tight end. Now he's 32 receiving yards away to set the franchise record for tight end receiving yards. So there's a lot of like random. I don't want to go through each of those because I do have the full cheat sheet up. I'll just kind of refer to it as we go here. So let's talk about quarterback. Top quarterback play today: Tanner McKee, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Jackson Dart, Jacoby Brissett, or other. What do we like at quarterback today? What's up, Vincent? How's it going, my man? Trevor's been the new Jacoby Brissett in the last few weeks. Yeah, he was the number one quarterback through the fantasy playoff weeks, which is pretty crazy. Obviously, I think he has 4 rushing touchdowns over the last 3 weeks as well. I don't know if we can say that's going to continue, but he's been great. Yeah, and I'm not like really a Trevor Lawrence truther by any means. Kyron is my biggest tough call I can find. Yeah, it comes like that whole the entire slate could come down to how much the Rams players play. As crazy as that sounds. Like the Puka Nakua decision is very difficult as well. I keep coming back to like McVay told us that they're going to play full out. I just don't necessarily trust that to be the case. Caleb needs 270 passing yards for 4K in the season, which would be the first for a Bears quarterback. Kind of pathetic as old as the franchise is. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I could see the Bears putting up a big number. I mean, it is the highest total by far. I guess Dallas and Giants are kind of right there too. But yeah, Dallas is another interesting one, right? I think that Dak can lead the league for the first time for a Dallas quarterback in passing yards. So we'll see how long they stay in. But yeah, the Dallas situation is kind of interesting as well. If you get like 2-3 quarters out of Dak against this Giants defense, somewhat interesting. I think if you're playing cash games, shout out Peter Overzet, Cash Game King this week. It's like probably the most like iconic bit of like the entire season. So shout out to Pete. Hope you win over half your head to heads. Hope you hit that cash line of double ups, all that fun stuff. I'm not going to be playing cash games, but if you are playing cash games, I think it's very difficult to get away from Trevor Lawrence at quarterback today, personally. Yeah. We're not groundbreaking with that take this week, but 6,400. Obviously, the Jags have a ton to play for. Division title on the line. Fully motivated. This Titans defense or this Titans team has been out of it and basically given up for weeks now. Yeah. Multiple touchdowns in 7 straight games, either on the ground or through the air for Trevor Lawrence. Nice floor. Nice floor. Great matchup. All that stuff. Why do we think the Cowboys starters don't play the full game? Has there been reporting on that? I think, yes, there's been reporting that they might try and get a little bit of work towards their backup is Milton, right? And they trade for him. He's like not going to be a projection. That's like the part of this that's so irritating. I'm trying to find the exact news item that I saw here. I could have swore I saw that Joe Milton was going to get some run, though. I guess on news, let's Let's make sure we didn't miss anything as I was kind of setting up for the stream today. Devon Achane shoulder not expected to play. Jalen Waddle not expected to play. I don't see a ton of other news so far. We will see. We will see, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna keep looking for that Joe Milton thing if that pops up. But yeah, I did definitely hear that Dak Prescott playing the full game was kind of a long shot. Now it's just bugging me that I can't find this on Twitter. Hmm. Anyways, Twitter is a hard place to find stuff these days. Committee QB in Las Vegas. Audio. What's wrong with audio? You guys hear me? What's up, Velveeta Cheetah? How we doing? Hawk win last night. Whole Iron Range heard me going bonkers. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Jackson Dart getting some love in GPPs. Yeah, I like the Slayton stuff. We'll get to that at wide receiver. I think Jackson Dart. I mean, it's so weird because with the murmurs that they might even still be going quarterback in this draft, that's got to be at least for Dart. There could be some proving ground here for him in this week, and he's one of those guys that's still going to continue to run no matter what. Audiobook. Oh, gotcha. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, Tanner McKee, obviously, he got a ton of pass attempts last year in Week 18, so we could see that. Drake May still kind of trying to tie a bow on his MVP odds. I think he's still one of the or like the pretty heavy favorite at this point. Obviously, Stafford, Josh Allen, right there as well. But it does look like Drake May is going to be the MVP unless um, we get like a surprise Stafford. I think it's the MVP race is kind of interesting too, because some people will say that a younger guy like that, like versus like someone that's been in the league for a long time, even if their stats are relatively comparable. Stafford faded a little bit down the stretch, all of those things. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Stafford still, but May is pretty much the heavy favorite at this point. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett, again, the Cardinals have nothing to play for, but they haven't for quite a while. The thing with the Cardinals, though, is you want them to be behind, right? That catch up mode. That's kind of what we're looking for. Jalen Hyatt, if he's active today, interesting. Interesting. The quarterback situation, I do think it's going to be relatively flat. This is kind of a week where I want to be stacking up and overstacking games because there's going to be so many of these like off the wall players that end up being kind of like the 1 to 5% owned players, even less, like 1 to 3% owned players. You don't have to have those guys to win GBPs, especially some of the smaller field GBPs that I'm playing. So I'm trying to get like a game or an offense right. This is usually one of those weeks where it's tough to find those outlier performances. You could be just grabbing some duds along the way if you have a little bit. If you're trying to dig for one of those wide receivers that could pop, there's a lot of uncertainty. Best running back play today. I keep forgetting to change this, so ignore the not Woody part. Uh, Jalen Wright, Tank Bisbee, Jaden Blue. So those are like our cheap options for the most part. Jordan Mason kind of in the middle there, and then Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. If you had to, I guess, price considered best running back play today, who is it? What are we thinking, friends? Best running back play today. We already talked about Bijan a little bit. 8,700 for him on DraftKings, 9,600 on FanDuel. Obviously, Atlanta, nothing to play for, even though that it can be like a three-way tie in that division. They don't have any of the tiebreakers, so they'll be playing spoiler. Um, yeah, I think that it's one of those ones that, again, the Saints, home game against them, really strong environment there. The Chris Olave stuff was crazy, by the way, earlier this week. So prayers to Olave. The Tyler Shuck stuff is kind of interesting, but I do think that the Falcons can play well in this spot. The Bijan hype makes some sense to me. I'll say that. ETN, interesting. Yeah, I could have put ETN on this list. He's one of those ones that obviously is playing on a team that is heavily incentivized to win. I'm with you. I like that other. RJ Harvey. Got a touchdown prop on RJ Harvey. I like that one. Yep. The pricing is a little bit tougher to get there on those guys, especially if we're trying to prioritize getting in Bijan, but I've heard worse ideas. I think RJ Harvey at like 10% is pretty solid, actually. Yeah. It is one of those weeks that's it's a little bit more difficult to try and find like crazy leverage also, because if we're just sitting there and obviously the Trevor Lawrence stuff, maybe ETN is some nice leverage off of that. I almost would rather go the other way and go like Jacksonville defense for like the amount of like I think that's one of the stronger leverage options off of Trevor Lawrence if they end up stealing some of those touchdowns in that game. Henderson game, maybe. I could see that. Bijan ETN of playing McKee doubles. The McKee doubles are actually pretty sharp, I think. There is even an argument for, since there's some volatility on what we think is going to happen with Detroit, like maybe it's just a condensed Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamison Williams, like a condensed target share game for Jared Goff. It is in Chicago, so we don't get the dome, obviously, but somewhat interesting. Bo Nix at 6,200 against the Chargers, team that's basically going to be sitting some of their starters. Somewhat interesting, big total there. I think they probably keep their foot to the pedal a little bit. We saw Bo Nix go off in week 18 last year in a similar situation. And then there's like Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. These guys have had nothing to play for quite a while. No one's going to play Joe Burrow today. Jamar Chase is obviously going to be popular. Jamar Chase is like the highest owned wide receiver, basically, and no one wants to play Joe Burrow. So I've thought through that a little bit too. Tracy looks set up well. I thought that last week too, yeah. A lot of others here. No one wants to go with the high price guys as the best. I think that's probably accurate. I think that tournaments are going to be one kind of who's going to pick this correct mid-range running back, right? I guess not even mid-range. These guys are cheap, right? 4,200, 4,300. Jordan Mason, 5,200 against Green Bay's backups. No Aaron Jones. I'm kind of interested in that. Sub 10% ownership as of now. Audric Estime at 5K. No one's really been talking about him, but he projects really well. Like Mason with Micah Parsons out. Agreed. Yeah. I probably buried the league. I think that this is probably one of the more interesting questions here. So, top elite play. So, not just elite wide receiver play, but highest price play. We got Puka Nacua, and we've got some question marks there on how much this Rams team is going to play their starters. We got Bijan Robinson, who we've talked about, Jamar Chase, probably the highest owned wide receiver. And then we got Jahmyr Gibbs. Again, this Detroit team that there's a little bit of concern that we won't just have full go from their starters. What do you guys think? If you had to pay up for one of these guys today, price considered, who is it? Who is it? I think we'll probably have to build our weekly JJ McCarthy team just to get that out of my brain at some point. If JJ McCarthy eventually wins us $1 million, we'll be back to even with how much we've lost on Vikings this year. I won't force you guys to make him the main team, but that might be like a tradition. Like at the end of every show, we get the JJ McCarthy team out of our brains just in case. Top elite play: Puka Nacua, Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase, or Jahmyr Gibbs. 9 is terrible. I've seen it in person. Can't confirm. It's crazy though because like over the last like few weeks, like his last few starts, he's put like reasonable fantasy points on the board. I just as someone that's watched Max Brosmer, um, I would just rather watch McCarthy. So the Vikings games have been kind of painful because the defense is so good. It's like all of the points and all the excitement comes from the defense, and then like the offense trots out there and just can't get anything going. But against this Packers team that is full on just resting starters, I don't know. We'll see. Haven't heard a lot of people talk about Jefferson really today. He's 5,800, like crazy, absolutely crazy. In order to place your vote, this is a sub-only vote. Subscribe to the channel. Exclamation point vote, space the number. You'll see it in the chat, some of the OGs, but if you're here for the first time, that's how you get your votes in. Bijan Robinson, top elite play. I think that's probably right. I just kind of wanted to gauge the Jamar Chase on that, and it looks like, again, people are overlooking Jamar Chase today. Somewhat interesting. Top non-elite wide receiver play today. This one's a little bit tougher, actually. From like I tried to put players on this list. Obviously, there's some cheaper guys on here too that I'm actually considering. So I'm like trying to somewhat keep my pool at least a little bit more condensed. Because if you get too spread out in week 18, it's really tough to build. There's definitely going to be some cheaper, low-owned wide receivers that go off. It happens every year in week 18. But I think you almost have to think about this week in another way where it's how can I avoid some duds? Because like a usable score as like a mid-range wide receiver is actually super valuable this week. What do we think? Top non-elite wide receiver play today. Oh, someone's asking like if I was to choose one of those like cheaper running back options, like kind of in that lower tier, who do I like the best? I think it's Jadon Blue. 4,300 for him. He's going to be used obviously in the passing game, which is really nice. No Javante, all that good stuff. But he hasn't played much this year in general, but everyone seems to think that he's still extremely talented. So that's definitely one of the ones that I got wrong this year. I had him as like a guy that could come in and start to take some work away from Javante as the season went on. That was definitely not the case. So he hasn't played a ton, but Jadon Blue at 4,300, especially if we get Dak for uh, most of this game. I think he's probably my favorite of those guys, but Jalen Wright, Tank Bisbee, they're just fine as well. You're probably going to play two of those anyway. If I was to rank it, I would probably go Jadon Blue, Jalen Wright, Tank Bigsby in that order. Michael Wilson getting a lot of love. Yeah, I think that makes some sense. 6,600 for him. Again, Marvin Harrison Jr. out, and he's been just incredible with Marvin Harrison out most of this year. So that's been at 6,600. It feels like a little expensive for him. Um, yeah, if you were to tell me that Michael Wilson would be $800 more expensive than Justin Jefferson at the beginning of the season, that's where we're at. So I think that's interesting. Jacoby Myers feels pretty safe. Luther Burden, thankfully, that injury scare, he's been incredible on like a per route basis this year. So I think he's somewhat interesting. No one wants to play Jerry Jeudy, but at 4,100, he's one of those ones that you kind of just trust the target share a little bit. Um, and yeah, like no Fannin, like who else are they gonna throw to against this terrible Cincinnati defense? So like the Jerry Jeudy, Jamar Chase mini stacks, I think make a ton of sense. On the cheaper side, I still think that Jahan Dotson's interesting. He's only got one vote so far in the poll, but at 3,800, the Eagles basically just resting all their starters. I do like him quite a bit. So him, Darius Cooper, you're kind of deciding who you want to pair with your Tanner McKee teams. But yeah, again, if we're just targeting these terrible defenses, the Commanders would definitely be in that vein, right? One of the few teams that McCarthy actually did well against this year was the Commanders. The backup Philly stack today. Yeah, the problem is like, what are you paying up for? Like, you're just gonna get Bijan in there and some of these other ones. Like, I'm always struggling a little bit in week 18 as well. So even if you think you found like this cheap stack that could go off, like, how are you filling out your roster with studs at this point? Like the studs that we probably want to play: Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs. Like you could probably build teams where you just play both of those guys and feel pretty good about it. Jamar Chase. Maybe you just play like a Trey McBride type of team. Somewhat interesting. There's just like really good value at tight end too. So then you're probably in the situation where you're playing McBride at flex. But I don't think that's the worst idea. I think I like McBride at his price point, 7,500, more than most of the wide receivers there. So I think I would play McBride over CD, Pickens, Drake London, Amon-Ra probably. So it's like Puka and Jamar Chase are probably the only tight ends or only wide receivers I'd rather play in that range. Bijan and Chase, McBride. Okay, so maybe that's the play if you like some of the cheaper stacks. That's fair. That's fair. If you're just trickling in here, guys, we do have a couple of cheat sheets that I'm giving away for free. BonusNFL.com. If you're wondering what's going on with the contract incentives, the milestones, all of that stuff, throw your email in there. You'll get emailed that cheat sheet for free. Also, the team motivations. If you're trying to figure out which teams have anything to play for, this is the best place to do it. NFLweek18.com. There's a link in the description for both of those. Just toss your email in there and you can get all that good stuff for free. Obviously, Prize Picks as well. You can still play $5, get $50 if you use code HOLKA live on Prize Picks. Fun week to do that. Get your bonus, get your free $50 before we jump into the playoff slate. I'm excited for that next week. All right, let's keep this moving because I think the most fun part of today's show is just going to be building an actual lineup. Let's talk about tight end quickly. I mentioned Trey McBride, but there's also some cheaper options that really stand out today. We have Juwan Johnson, Travis Kelce. Will it be Travis Kelce's last game ever? Greg Dulcich, Chig Okonkwo. We talk about Trey McBride or other. What do we like at tight end? There's some interesting cheaper options today. 2,600, Greg Dulcich. Juwan Johnson, 4,200. You could probably throw Dalton Schultz into there too. He probably could have been on this poll. 3,800 for him. He's fine. If you're just coming in today, in terms of like some of the recaps at the position, Trevor Lawrence, I think, is still a tier ahead of pretty much everyone from a raw projection standpoint, a team that's motivated, all that. So I have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. I think there's a lot of different ways you can go outside of that in tournaments. Running back, I think Bijan Robinson's the top play, probably is in a tier of his own. And then I really like these cheaper guys, Jadon Blue, Jalen Wright, Tank Bigsby. If you wanted to pay up for another guy at running back, it's probably going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. Wide receiver, I think that Jamar Chase will be the highest owned, but probably for good reason. If you're going to go down in the salary tiers, I do like Michael Wilson, Justin Jefferson quite a bit, Jacoby Myers. And then it's a bunch of cheap guys. It's like Jahan Dotson, Kevin Austin, Darius Slayton, those type of guys. Jerry Jeudy, you can make a strong argument for him kind of in that mid-range as well, just from a volume perspective. What do we think at tight end? Juwan Johnson leading the way. 38% of you think Juwan Johnson's the top tight end, price considered. I might agree with you guys. 4,200, Chris Olave out in this game. Obviously, no Alvin Kamara. So there's really not a lot for this Saints offense to run through at this point. And Juwan Johnson's been like low-key really good for the last like little stretch here. 9 catches 2 weeks ago, 95 yards on 4 catches last week. So he hasn't really been getting there from a touchdown perspective, but the volume has been really safe. Really safe. And now he just gets a little bit of a bump in volume this week as well. So it looks good. We got a couple people in the chat saying that it's a tough matchup at tight end. I think that's fair. At tight end in particular, I prefer to target guys that have high team totals because touchdowns skew it so aggressively. So that would be like a bigger concern than matchup for me. Volume is still like probably the thing that I would focus on the most over matchup, but the team total stuff does really matter at tight end specifically. Maybe Schultz, maybe. Yeah, I don't mind Schultz. He could have been on this list. He's just not my favorite of the week. There's probably something to be said too, just for like punting something off here with Greg Dulcich at 2,600. I think that's fair. All right, the most fun poll of the day. Favorite game stack. It is a week though where if you did want to just stack up one game or one team, you can kind of limit some of the decisions that can get you into trouble with trying to kind of 10 leg parlay your team this week. So Detroit to Chicago. This is an order for the most part of game total overall. Detroit at Chicago, Dallas at New York Giants, Tennessee at Jacksonville, Arizona at LA, Miami at New England, Cleveland at Cincinnati, New Orleans at Atlanta, Green Bay at Minnesota with a massive 36.5 point total. Uh, LA Chargers, Denver Broncos, or other. What do we like for if we were to stack up one game today on DraftKings? What is it? One game. We will make our nice little JJ McCarthy team at the end for fun. Why not? Why not throw another $25 to DraftKings just in case? Just in case. Detroit at Chicago getting lots of love here. Dallas at New York Giants, lots of love here. We could build a Dak team. Just hope that he ends up playing most of the game. Had Dak on that championship fantasy roster last week. Didn't quite get there because my opponent decided to play Malik Willis against me. They also had Bijan. Super teams don't always win, is what I learned. You have a good team when everyone is so happy for you to lose in your league. You know what I mean? Everyone was so pumped to see me lose. Team went like 12-2, walked obviously the bye and playoffs, walked into the championship, and then just gets absolutely destroyed by Malik Willis and Bijan Robinson in the final. Oh, I'm so bitter. Okay. Dallas at New York Giants leading the way so far for this poll. Interesting. We didn't talk about defense much. Minnesota, obviously, really good spot at home. They're expensive, 3K, but they get Clayton Tune at home. Can't see him having much success. Caleb needs 270 yards to hit 4,000. I think the Caleb stuff's interesting. Yep. Just have to figure out who you're going to pair with Caleb, right? That's like a bigger issue, probably. Is he against Luther Burden? Probably. 5,300 Luther Burden. I get behind that. Yeah, I could still see Dan Campbell going all out as well. I'm with you. I'm with you. And Loveland, that's fair. Yep. All right. Well, it sounds like we have our game here. Dallas at New York Giants. Detroit at Chicago is pretty close though. So are we sure about this? 21 votes. We got about 150 people here watching. I'll let this roll a little bit longer. Sounds like Dallas at New York Giants is the way. Interesting. All right, so let's close this out. I'll let you guys, whoops. I'll let you guys pick the quarterback. We got Dak and we got Dart. So who do we want to play at quarterback? Jackson Dart, Dak Prescott. Real American dollars going behind this team, so I need your guys' help. Who do we want? Again, if you're getting some action in this week, make sure you go get your 50 bucks on Prize Picks as well. Play 5, get 50 instantly. Use code HulkAlive so they know you came from the live stream. Takes like 5 minutes to set up. Get 50 bucks, why not? Who do we want at quarterback today, friends? Who do we want? I'm probably on team like overstack this week in general. It's usually the correct approach, I think. So I'll make this easy for you guys. If we're playing this game, I think it's totally fine to play Vikings D at 3K. So we'll throw Vikings D in there. I think it's somewhat interesting to play Mason with Vikings D because there's going to be so many people that just play Vikings as the one-off. I think Mason's a pretty strong bet for a touchdown. So let's go ahead and do that as we're figuring out what the rest of this roster is going to look like. I think that's a really solid starting point. Cash core I like this week. I don't play a ton of cash games, Tyler. And by not a ton, I mean none. Haven't played cash in a few years. Just doesn't do it for me. I like building tournament rosters. A lot more fun. Been more profitable in the long term for me to play tournaments as well. I do like the smaller field tournaments personally. You don't have to be perfect in those. The leverage means a little bit more. I think it's more of a fun game to play personally. But if you're looking for some cash game ideas, can I interest you in the cash game king, Peter Overzet? I'm sure he's got some show going this morning too. That's the spot. Running back too strong for Mason, possibly. We do have Dart. You guys have decided on Dart for our quarterback, so let's get Dart in there. I guess my concern here, not concern, but like the best option just to pair is probably just to throw Slayton with him. Do we want to throw Tracy as well at 5,500? I don't. We could probably just single stack Dart because he's going to run so much. Like Tracy's getting a few targets, but yeah, I think we probably just want to single stack Dart. Are you guys good with that? Just get Slayton in there, and then we figure out what we want on the Dallas side. I mentioned that I do like Jaden Blue quite a bit, so let's get him in there. So I think we're here. And then we probably want at least one of CD and Pickens, maybe both. What do you guys think? The Dart stack with spending our money with CD and Pickens? Somewhat interesting. This is kind of what it looks like if I take Mason out for a second. We're stacking up this game, mostly Dallas, and then like a real narrow Dart to Slayton. It's kind of interesting. Yep. Will Mason get the same run he got earlier in the year with Ty Chandler back? I mean, I think that he's in a pretty good spot. Yeah. I don't think like the Vikings have been playing normal for a while, right? So yeah, Mason I think is by far the best like um probably bet on that side. I mean, Jefferson at 5,800 I think is super interesting as well. But yeah, I do like it sounds like I like Mason a lot more than you guys. So I guess that's going to be my stand on this roster is that we get Mason in there. We still have a lot of salary to work with here for tight end and flex. So if we do want to force in something that's a little bit more expensive, what do we want to do here? Because we could just play Dulcich at 2,600. What does that leave us with if we play the cheapest possible tight end? We don't even need to go all the way down to Dulcich with this roster. So that's interesting. So we don't have to go down to Dulcich. We could probably just play Juwan Johnson here. We could play Colston Loveland. I know you guys were talking about him. Or we just get in the Travis Kelce Sun Run 4,700 game. Kelce versus Juwan Johnson is somewhat interesting because their ceilings are pretty comparable, but you're going to get Kelce at like 5% ownership. Have to go McBride. We could. Yeah, this is a team that could make McBride work. Yep. This might be worth a poll, actually. Let's do this. So I think this tight end decision, since it kind of built, it basically is our entire roster. McBride. I'll try and do an order of salary. Kelsey's slightly more expensive than Juwan. And then in that range, we probably still could go down a little bit for like Schultz. We could probably play Loveland. Who else at tight end? Okonkwo. 34. That's probably the guys. Who did I miss? Oh, Brenton Strange, probably. Yeah, Strange. All right, tight end. You guys choose. I'll let you guys make this call. Dart, slate, and stack. Yep. You guys choose the tight end here for us. My brain hurts today. So as of right now, we basically just have the overstack of this Giants and Cowboys game, and then we have a Vikings Mason correlation. Stranger things. Yeah. Finally started the last season of Stranger Things. Was waiting for it all to come out. No spoilers, please, for the love of God. 6,600. So we have plenty of salary to work with here. We don't necessarily have to go all the way down, but we could still get Bijan on this team. We could still get McBride on this team. We could still get Jamar Chase on this team. We've got a lot of room. We could play Puka on this team still. Can we get Puka and McBride? I don't think so. No, definitely not. McBride leading the way. You guys just want us to jam in McBride. Kelsey getting some love too, though. We got 150 people in here. Let's let this ride a little bit. This is a big decision. Kelsey, McBride, Juwan Johnson, Loveland. Let's get this to like 25 votes, and then we'll keep moving forward here. McBride, 46% of the votes so far. This is crazy. So I've lived downtown for like 7-ish years, always very close to US Bank Stadium. Just realized this is the last time that I'm gonna be able to hear, basically in like one of my ears during this show, I'll be able to hear like all the tailgating stuff that's like kind of right outside my window. Crazy. End of an era. End of an era. Loveland and Bijan. Seems like McBride leading the way here. No Tracy, you. We could go. Could do it. I don't think it's necessary. Puka is Dustin from Stranger Things. That's funny. I see the resemblance. Am I moving to the burbs? The wife and I are building a house, actually. So we have like a year or so before the house is ready. Um, so we're going to move a little bit closer to the in laws for the first year of the baby. Just seems like a nice, responsible move, which is not my strong suit. Tesla. That's an interesting call. Yes, we've had our fun in the city. 7 years here. End of an era. It is sad. I'll miss my view. All right. You guys have spoken. Trey McBride going in at tight end. That gives us 5,700 in the flex. 5,700 to work with here. So we could get Tracy in there. Could do that. We could try and get in a little bit more upside here. Jacoby Myers fits as a one-off. I don't know if I love that as a one-off. Luther Burden, 5,300. We are 100 away from Justin Jefferson if we just wanted to play up the Viking side of that game. I don't think that's necessary. What do you guys think here? Jacoby makes some sense. Tracy just getting more of that game, I think makes some sense. We could get Tank Bigsby in there, leave some salary on the table. Ramondre, Parker Washington. Renegade Noel, what's up, my man? Dulcich. Joe the Family Man Holka, yep. Tank one off. Anytime CD for Kyron. Yeah, I think it's fine. Obviously, no Devontae is helpful for the short yardage Kyron touchdowns. I'm just a little bit nervous still about how long that the starters are in. Bigsby, Parker Washington. Bigsby's interesting. 5,400 for Bigsby. The running backs are so strong. I'm like, I guess a little bit concerned, just like throwing a random wide receiver in there. My brain is telling me I should just stack up this game though. The problem is like Tracy and Dart. Oh, they don't have that much of a negative correlation as I thought, but the correlation is very negative with Slayton. It looks like my brain is telling me just to continue to stack up this Dallas and Giants game though, which means Tracy should go in this spot. Are you guys like strongly against that? We basically at that point only have Trey McBride for late swap equity, which isn't ideal. So the argument in favor of Bigsby is we would just get more late swap flexibility here. So if we get Bigsby in there, we would have a little bit more flexibility if this goes wrong, essentially. So that's kind of the decision point. That's kind of the decision point. I kind of think that in this week, I'm not trying to just grab as many one-offs personally. So if we did, like if I was to be completely honest here, my preference would be to play Tracy on this team. And then we're sitting here with just hoping that that one game goes crazy. And then we have Vikings, Mason, and then our one-off Trey McBride. Having like usable players here, plus the one game that we hope really shoots out, and it does happen to be like the second highest total on the slate. So this would be my preference, friends. So we do have one thing left to do today, and it's what we've been doing the last couple weeks just for fun. We are gonna build a JJ McCarthy team. Are you guys up for this? Let's do it. Let's get in there. JJ McCarthy. Why not us? Let's get him in there. I also like I have to have a Jefferson team at that price or I'm going to freak out. It gives us a little bit of leverage here too because then we don't necessarily have to play the Vikings defense. Maybe we just play the Vikings defense and then we get a bunch more opportunities for McCarthy. The thing that like I always go back to for some reason with McCarthy is every time McCarthy has a reasonable game, Jalen Naylor just happens to be the one that goes off. Like the big games, the only big games that Naylor has all year are with McCarthy, right? So like if I'm just staring at a 3,300 player, I just think that Jalen Naylor has to be a part of this stack. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? I think if you're not playing Vikings defense, which this team doesn't need to, I'm in between just paying up all the way for the Broncos, or ideally we're trying to leverage Trevor Lawrence, right? So maybe it's just paying all the way up for the Jags at defense. Thoughts? What do we think here? Do we get a decent amount of leverage? Probably. If we just play Jags D. Oliver at tight end is funny. Yeah. Oliver cost me like a 7 of 7 parlay one year, so I just like X him out of my brain typically. Chiefs D. Denver D is going to project better probably. Denver D versus Jacksonville D is my question here. They're both basically the same price at this point. Much lower ownership for Jags. Broncos are going to be the better projection, though. I'm torn. Let's put in Jags, see if we need an extra 200. Because I'm willing to go to Broncos if we need to, but I kind of like the leverage just getting Jags. Denver playing against second team Chargers. That's true. Trey Lance. God. Yep. Um, okay. So I think if we're playing McCarthy, we can play Bijan Robinson, right? We can get some of the best plays in. Are we allowed to play good plays too? Because that probably would be nice. Let's get some good plays in there. So we get Bijan in there. Probably should play Juwan. That can be a nice little mini. We still have a lot of salary to work with here. There is some very good running back plays. So we could get Jalen Wright in there. We can get Jadon Blue in there. We had Tank Bigsby love earlier. I don't really want anything else on Green Bay. Could probably fit Puka. Yeah. Luther Burden. Hmm. I kind of want to get in Chase, though. That's my issue. I think we still have to try and get in Chase. I'd like to have some late swap equity on this team, though. And then this basically puts us in this range at running back that we are just talking about. We played Jadon Blue on the last team. We played Tracy on the last team. We played Mason on the last team. So we could just get in Jalen Wright and 6,100 left. So, like, yeah, we don't even have to go down to Tank Bigsby. But he's probably the one that would make the most sense there. 700 left on the table isn't ideal. Do we just make this a fun team and just play Travis Kelce? Just hope we get the walk-off Travis Kelce game? That seems more fun. Harvey late swap, that's interesting. Yeah. This feels like a lot of one-offs, which I don't typically like to do. Feels like a lot of one-offs. I don't like James Cook today. I think he's fine. Yeah, they're probably going to, I mean, he's leading the league in rushing yards. The problem is motivation for the Bills, right? So they can still climb to like the number 5 seed. But yeah, I'm not like big on the Bills today. We could go like an Audric Estime on the other side of Bijan as well if we really wanted to. I yeah, this is the fun team. Juwan Johnson's fine, right? He's like one of the best plays on the slate, arguably the best tight end play on the slate. But Kelce just seems more fun, so I'm just gonna play Kelce on this team. I'm just not exactly sure what I want to do with my other running back slots. I don't think we can fit in Travis Etienne unless we're just gonna play Greg Dulcich. Bijan is on this team. I think Swaggy's behind on the stream. All right. Oh, Michael Wilson. Yeah, so I guess the question is always going to be how do we differentiate Jalen Wright versus Tank Bigsby versus Jadon Blue? That's probably the question. So I have those guys very, very close in projection. Bigsby will be the lowest owned of those by a good chunk. Jalen Wright. Yeah, this is tough. What do you guys think of those guys? We can pick 2 of those guys. I want to let you guys make some of this call too. Or we just play ETN and Dulcich. Ugh. Henderson. Could get Travion in there. Can we play Wright and Henderson? I think we can, actually. We cannot. Even if we got the extra 200 by moving down defense, we still can't quite get there. Leaving money on the table seems like the move. I'm not opposed to that. Yeah, I mean, we could just play Tank Bigsby and Jalen Wright. We could. Not totally against that. Am I overthinking this Jacksonville as leverage off of Trevor Lawrence move here? How expensive is Harvey? 6,800. He's like just a little bit out of reach for us. On our last team, though, we did get in Jadon Blue and Tracy. So on this team, we could just continue to play some of the best plays. Yeah, we can't make that work. And just play right and tank and leave some salary on the table. We could just leave a little bit on the table here. Just seems like a lot of one-offs to me personally, but we could do it. Thoughts on this? We could look at some offensive line stuff, yeah. Maybe that's the decision point. So some of the biggest mismatches, God, this Chargers offensive line is so bad. It's just like Jaguars D line. ETN, Strange, Jax, DST. I don't know if we can get to that. Well, yeah, this is the JJ McCarthy team. We know it's not going to be a team that like has a lot of equity. It's just fun. We like fun here too. If we did go down to Broncos, does that help us get to anything in this last spot? Not really. Not really. Hmm. Just play Bijan Robinson and Algier together. Yeah, I think like the play is probably just to play Broncos D, a heavily incentivized Broncos D against a terrible Chargers offensive line and Trey Lance. If you're not playing Minnesota defense, I think it's tough to get away from Broncos defense, and we have all the salary in the world. So I think that makes some sense. Can we get up to Jerry Judy? $4,100 Jerry Judy. If we did something fun like a Judy Chase mini stack, what does that get us at running back? God, this range is so terrible. It doesn't get us anything we want. It doesn't quite get us up to Travion. Doesn't get us up to RJ Harvey. So I don't know if the Jerry Judy thing is necessary. Like Judy versus Wright, they're basically projected for the exact same amount of points. There are so many good running back plays today. I'm with you. The Chase like alpha one off, I'm still okay with though. I don't think you have to force in Judy. Swift revenge game. Samson from Cleveland. 5,200 Samson. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I don't know if it's my favorite. I wish there was just like this amazing leverage play at running back. I'm not seeing it if it's here. So I think we have enough of the aggressiveness just by playing the McCarthy or triple or double stack. I think we can probably just play some of these running backs here. Again, we need usable usable slots. So I think this is going to be it. We're gonna thread the needle here with McCarthy, Jefferson, Naylor. Then we're gonna bring it back with nothing, and then we're gonna go Bijan, Wright, Bigsby. So 3 of the best running back plays. We're gonna get some fun in here with Chase, Kelsey, Broncos D. That's gonna be it. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Week 18 slate. And we'll be back next week. Wild Card Week is always a fun week from a DraftKings perspective. Again, appreciate you guys being understanding about the chaos that led to me not being able to do a stream last week. But hope everyone has a great Week 18. Again, I'll say it one last time. Week 18 is a week to scale back. A lot can happen, but maybe we'll just win it all with JJ McCarthy, right? That's the move. Appreciate you guys. Talk soon.